Luke here. Let's talk about virtual reality. The next frontier. Something so immersive you might accidentally punch your ceiling lights while trying to throw a grenade. Yeah, I did that. Thanks, Blood and Truth. I hope you're happy with yourself.
Fruit. But what about beer?
Beer's not fruit, it's grain.
Here, try it.
Oh, nice one, Ryan.
Blood and Truth is a PSVR exclusive. You play as former Special Forces soldier Ryan Marks, who returns to London after his father dies. When a rival gangster forcibly takes over the family business, the Marks family go underground and plan their revenge. The story goes back and forth between being a sort of Guy Ritchie London gangster movie or some kind of James Bond spy thriller, minus any of the good parts though. The story's pretty boring and the characters are completely forgettable. You have a brother who vapes, a sister who occasionally does stuff, and there's a CIA agent who takes an interest in you and seems totally happy to support you in your violent street warfare. And then of course everything ends on major sequel bait. If it wasn't in VR, Blood and Truth would be one super generic game. And this is the main problem with Blood and Truth, in that it's a fairly short story. It's maybe about 6 or 7 hours and there's not much content on the side. There are some occasional gimmicky moments like lockpicking and disabling stuff like a generator, but it's a pretty straightforward game that lacks replayability. Outside of the main story, there's a few target range inspired challenges and a promise that more content is coming soon, but ultimately there's not much replayability in the main story unless you want to explore the separate pathways from some missions or attempt to get a higher score on missions you've already completed. So the earlier parts of Blood and Truth bounce between shootouts and exploration sections. One mission sees you shooting your way through a casino, and in another you wander through a museum in what feels like an extended VR tech demo more than anything. And you also have a safe house, which has a few little things to mess around with, and a shooting range to test out your weapons. At its core, Blood and Truth is pretty much a VR shooting gallery. You move from cover to cover, blasting away at enemies with a small arsenal including pistols, SMGs or shotguns. And the range of weapons is pretty small, but I found myself having tracking issues with the move controllers. Whenever I wield two-handed weapons like an assault rifle, trying to place my second hand on the front of the rifle caused the PSVR to have major tracking issues. As a result, the gun would wave all over the place and make it impossible to aim carefully. I also found a lot of issues with throwing stuff, most notably with grenades. The amount of times I tried to throw a grenade only for it to inexplicably just drop right in front of me and blow up in my face was incredibly infuriating. So I pretty much just stuck to pistols and SMGs through most of the game since they were easier to handle. It was that I tried to fire a rifle with a single hand and hoping it hits the target. It does however do a pretty good job of keeping the action in front of you as much as possible. There's even a few chasing scenes and the game automatically rotates your position to keep everything in front of you no matter what you're doing. And this one little touch actually makes a huge difference since you don't have to worry about turning around, and it does reduce some of the tracking issues I guess. But being in VR is what really saves Blood and Truth from being just another action game. The shootouts are pretty fun, and while it does lack a lot in range of enemies, it does bounce between big shootouts and potentially stealthable sections. There's also split pathways in each mission to set up different viewpoints for the same shootouts. And even when it does generic action set pieces like shooting from a moving vehicle, it's a lot more fun in VR. And the occasional run and gun sections often feel pretty badass as well. Thankfully, Blood and Truth doesn't rely too much on button pressing either. You have holsters on either side for equipping or holstering sidearms, while bigger weapons are slung around your back. And reloading is as simple as grabbing a magazine from your chest and sliding it into the weapon. It might be a weird thing, but there's something I really appreciate about VR games that require you to actually reload instead of just pressing a button. To be honest, I have mixed feelings about Blood and Truth. I enjoyed the shootouts, but the story failed to really leave an impression. I mean, I only finished it a few days ago and the main thing I remember was that bit where I just threw my brother's vape out of a car. The story's pretty short and boring, there's almost nothing to do outside of the main story. But it is a really fun VR shooter. In fact, it's probably one of the better ones I've played. It's hard to recommend Blood and Truth at its current full price unless you're looking for a short, fun little shootout simulator. For me, I guess it's a cautiously recommend unless you can get a good discount on it, because at its current price, £35, it's kind of asking a bit much. So that's what I think of Blood and Truth. Thanks for watching and check out the links on screen for more videos. Goodbye.